When a man is truly interested in a woman, he's not just watching what you do when things are going well. He's paying close attention to how you respond when things slow down, when there's space, when the rhythm changes. One of the first ways this shows up is through patience. Now, patience here doesn't mean he's sitting there with a stopwatch seeing how long you'll wait before you snap. It's far more subtle than that. Sometimes he'll delay replying to a message or hold off on confirming plans. Sometimes he'll step back just slightly, creating a little gap between your last conversation and the next. And it's not always because he's busy or distracted. Sometimes it's intentional. He's creating a space to see how you'll react when he's not immediately available. You see, anyone can be charming, playful, and relaxed when they're getting exactly what they want, exactly when they want it. But what he wants to know is, can you stay the same when there's a little friction? When you're not getting constant validation? Because in a relationship, there will always be moments when one person is busier, when life interrupts, when things aren't on a constant high. If he sees that your sense of worth, your calmness, your confidence crumbles the second he takes a step back, he'll start to wonder whether you're grounded enough to handle the natural ebbs and flows of a deeper relationship. This doesn't mean playing games back. It's not about waiting twice as long to reply or pretending you're busier than you are. It's about showing through your actions and energy that your world doesn't revolve entirely around his availability. That you're not sitting there refreshing your phone, crafting the perfect "Where are you?" text. You continue with your day, your goals, your plans, because your life is full even without him constantly in it. That confidence, that emotional independence, speaks louder than any witty comeback ever could. Think about it. If someone delays and you instantly panic, bombard them with messages, or demand an explanation, you've essentially told them, "Your attention is the oxygen I breathe, and without it, I suffocate." That's not attractive. What's attractive is knowing you can breathe on your own, and when he comes back, you welcome him warmly, not with resentment or desperation. A man who's looking for someone to truly commit to is looking for that kind of emotional maturity. He wants to see if you trust the connection enough to give it space when needed. And here's the subtle truth. When you pass this test, something changes in the dynamic. He begins to feel safe in the knowledge that you're not going to unravel the moment things aren't perfect. He starts to see you as someone who can handle the long game, not just the honeymoon phase. It reassures him that if he has a busy week, if he needs to focus on something important, you're not going to take it personally or make it about you. You're steady, you're grounded, and you're not looking for constant reassurance to feel valued. This is why patience is so powerful. It communicates self-respect without you having to declare it. It shows confidence without you having to prove it. It tells him you have your own rhythm, your own life, your own center of gravity. And when he feels that, he's drawn in. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're living in a way that naturally commands respect. The irony is, the less you chase in those moments, the more he feels pulled toward you. Not because of some manipulative game, but because confidence is magnetic. A man can't help but be intrigued by someone who doesn't fall apart without constant attention. And when you do see each other again, the connection is fresher, more exciting, because you've both had the space to miss each other. So, when you feel that space, when you sense he's taking a little longer to call, when plans don't fall into place immediately, Don't rush to fill the gap. Let it breathe. Let him see that your world remains just as rich, just as beautiful, and just as alive with or without his constant presence. That is the moment he starts to think, she's not just someone I'm interested in. She's someone I could truly invest in. One of the most telling things a man will do when he's genuinely interested in you is test your boundaries. And this isn't always about grand, obvious situations where someone blatantly crosses a line. More often, it's subtle. It's the small ways he might push to see where your limits are, what you're willing to accept, and whether you'll stand firm when something doesn't feel right to you. This isn't necessarily because he's trying to be disrespectful. Sometimes it's because he wants to see if you truly know your own value. A man who's looking for something real doesn't just want someone he's attracted to. He wants someone he can respect. And respect only grows when you show that you respect yourself. Boundaries are like the invisible framework that hold up a relationship. They tell the other person how you expect to be treated, what's okay, and what's not. Without them, things might feel exciting at first, but over time, the connection loses its balance. That's why, early on, a man might intentionally, or sometimes even unintentionally, do little things to see if you'll compromise your values for him. He might suggest something that makes you slightly uncomfortable. He might test how far he can go with certain jokes or comments. He might push for more of your time than you're ready to give. He's paying attention to whether you bend every time he applies a little pressure or whether you can hold your ground with grace. Here's the important part. Passing this test doesn't mean being aggressive, confrontational, or defensive. It's not about building a wall between you and him. It's about having a solid core. It's about being able to say no when something doesn't align with your values, without guilt, without apology, without fear that he'll lose interest. Because here's the truth, if a man loses interest simply because you had a standard, that's not the man who was going to cherish you anyway. In fact, a man worth your time will often find your refusal to lower your standards deeply attractive. It tells him you're not someone who can be easily swayed just because you want to keep his attention. You're not trying to win him by abandoning yourself. And here's where many people get it wrong. They think keeping boundaries will scare someone away. But the reality is, boundaries are what keep the right person close. They create clarity. They make a man feel that if he earns your time, if he earns your trust, it actually means something. If there's no line, no limit, then there's nothing to earn. And when there's nothing to earn, there's nothing to value. When you have clear boundaries, you become someone who naturally stands out, because in a world where so many people will say yes out of fear, you have the courage to say no out of self-respect. Sometimes these tests will come disguised as charm. He might say something like, "Come on, it's just a joke," or "Don't be so serious," when he pushes a little past your comfort zone. Other times, it's more direct. He might ask for something he knows is inconvenient for you just to see if you'll cancel your own plans for him. These are moments where your response matters more than you think. If you constantly cave, he learns that your boundaries are flexible whenever his wants are strong enough. But if you hold steady, kindly but firmly, he learns something much more important. He learns that your self-worth is not for negotiation. And here's the thing. Boundaries aren't just about protecting yourself. They're about setting the tone for how the relationship will operate. If you let things slide early on that you're actually uncomfortable with, it's much harder to correct later. You're essentially training the other person in how to treat you. If you show that you're consistent from the start, it builds a foundation of mutual respect. And when a man respects your boundaries, he begins to feel safer emotionally because he knows exactly where you stand. He knows you're not saying yes when you mean no. That kind of authenticity is rare, and when he finds it, it's magnetic. The best part about having strong boundaries is that they attract the right people and filter out the wrong ones without you having to do much. You don't have to chase, convince, or prove yourself. You simply live in alignment with your standards, and the man who's meant to be there will naturally rise to meet them. The ones who aren't ready or willing will drift away. And that's a blessing because it saves you from investing your time and heart in someone who was never going to honor you fully. And here's where the test becomes a turning point. When you pass it, when you stand firm without being harsh, you're not just showing him your boundaries. You're showing him your strength. You're showing him that you know your value, and you're not afraid to walk away from anything that asks you to give it up. That level of self-assuredness is incredibly compelling. It makes him see you not just as someone he desires, but as someone he can truly build something lasting with. So when those moments come, and they will, where you feel that gentle push, that slight nudge to see if you'll bend, remember this: you're not just responding to the moment, you're defining the future. Every time you hold your ground with kindness and clarity, you're teaching him exactly how to treat you. And the right man will thank you for it, not with words, but with the way he steps up to meet the standard you've set. One of the ways men quietly assess the kind of woman they're dealing with is by observing how she handles moments of emotional friction. I'm not talking about big, explosive arguments or life-altering crises. Those are obvious tests of character. I'm talking about the little triggers, the small frustrations, the offhand comments, the moments when things don't go exactly how you'd hoped or imagined. It's in those tiny moments that a man can get a very clear picture of how emotionally steady you really are. You see, early on, everyone is on their best behavior. You're both presenting the calm, composed, charming version of yourselves. But life isn't just made of perfect dinners and flirtatious texts. At some point, something will happen. A comment he makes that rubs you the wrong way. A plan that changes last minute. A moment when he's distracted and doesn't give you the attention you wanted. And in that moment, whether you realize it or not, he's watching. He's seeing whether you can roll with it or whether you let it spiral into drama. For a man who's looking for more than just short-term attraction, this matters a lot. Because in a long-term connection, there will be disagreements, stress, and moments when things aren't perfectly aligned. If every small irritation turns into a storm, it becomes exhausting over time. That's why a man might intentionally create a small, harmless point of tension. Not to hurt you, but to see if you can handle it without blowing it out of proportion. It could be something as light as teasing you about a habit you have, or playfully disagreeing with you on a topic you care about, just to see if you can engage without getting defensive or hostile. The key here isn't to suppress your feelings or pretend you're okay when you're not. It's about showing that you can communicate your feelings in a grounded way. That you can say, "I didn't love that," without attacking, accusing, or escalating. That you're capable of seeing the difference between something that's genuinely disrespectful and something that's just human imperfection. Emotional stability isn't about never feeling upset. It's about how you express that upset. When you respond with calm instead of chaos, you send a powerful signal. You are not ruled by impulse, and you are not seeking to control every situation. You show that you can manage your emotions instead of letting your emotions manage you. And to a man who's thinking about building a real partnership that is incredibly attractive, it tells him that in tough moments, you'll work with him, not against him. That you won't turn a minor misunderstanding into a massive fracture in the relationship. And there's another layer to this. When you can stay composed, you make it safer for him to be himself. If he knows that every little misstep will result in a meltdown, he's going to walk on eggshells, and over time, that kills the connection. But if he feels that you're emotionally steady, he can relax around you. He can speak freely, share openly, and trust that even if you don't agree with him, you won't punish him for it. That creates intimacy, because real intimacy requires the freedom to be imperfect without fear of overreaction. Of course, there will be times when you genuinely need to address something serious. And in those cases, the way you handle it becomes even more important. If you can express your boundaries firmly but without rage, if you can articulate your needs without shaming him, you show him that you're not just emotionally stable, you're emotionally intelligent. That's the difference between someone who just keeps it together and someone who actually knows how to navigate emotions in a healthy way. It's worth remembering that when you pass this kind of test, it's not just that he thinks she's cool under pressure. It goes deeper. He starts to feel that you're a safe place for him emotionally. He knows that if life throws something at you both, you're not going to collapse under the weight of it or turn on each other. That safety is rare, and when a man feels it, it makes him want to protect and invest in the relationship even more. This is why it's so powerful to master your emotional responses. Not for him, not to pass a test, but because it serves you in every part of your life. People who can manage their reactions tend to draw more respect, more trust, and more opportunities, both personally and professionally. And in a romantic connection, it's the difference between constant turbulence and steady growth. So the next time you feel that flicker of irritation, that temptation to fire back a sarcastic remark or to shut down and withdraw, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth the energy I'm about to give it? More often than not, you'll find that the best move is to address it with calm honesty or to let it slide entirely. And the beauty of doing that is that it not only keeps the moment from spiraling, it also leaves a lasting impression. Because a man who's truly paying attention will see that you're not here for unnecessary drama. You're here for something deeper, something stable, something real. One of the most telling things a man will quietly do when he's serious about you is pay attention to who you are when he's not around. It's easy to look committed when the person you're interested in is right in front of you. When they can see your every move, when you're on your best behavior, when the energy of the moment keeps you both connected. But what really matters to him is what happens when there's space. When you're apart, when there's no direct line of accountability, and your actions are driven purely by your own character, not by his presence. A man who's genuinely considering building something with you is not just looking for chemistry. He's looking for trust. And trust isn't built by what you do in the moments you know you're being watched. It's built in the moments you're not. That's why he's paying attention to the way you carry yourself when he's not right there. He notices if your behavior matches what you've said you value. He observes how you speak about him to others. He sees if you're consistent in your respect for the relationship, even when it would be easy not to be. This isn't about control or suspicion. It's about wanting to know that the connection isn't dependent on constant monitoring. In a healthy relationship, both people need to feel that when they turn their back, when they go about their day, the other person is still honoring what they've built together. And here's the thing. This is less about specific actions and more about the energy you put out into the world. Do you carry yourself with the same level of integrity, whether or not he's around? Do you create confidence in his mind that your loyalty isn't conditional on circumstances? Sometimes he'll test this without you even realizing it. Maybe he's traveling for a few days. Maybe his work schedule keeps him occupied for a while. Maybe there's a party you're going to without him. He's not just wondering what you're doing. He's wondering how you're doing it. Are you speaking about him with pride? Are you maintaining the same boundaries you would if he were standing right next to you? Are you showing through your actions that your commitment is real, even in his absence? Loyalty, in this sense, isn't just about being faithful in the obvious way. It's about alignment. It's about making choices that protect the connection, even when no one would know if you didn't. And when he notices that you are the same person in public, in private, and in between, it changes how he sees you. Because loyalty isn't just about what you say. It's about the kind of security you create for the other person's heart. This is also where consistency becomes incredibly powerful. It's not enough to have moments of loyalty. It's about showing a pattern. A man who's thinking long-term needs to feel that the trust he's placing in you is built on something solid, not on fleeting gestures. That means the way you speak about him, the way you handle attention from others, the way you manage situations that could test the relationship. All of it communicates something to him, whether you intend it or not. And here's the interesting part. When a man sees you as someone who is unwavering in your loyalty, it often makes him step up his own. People tend to mirror the energy they receive. If you're consistent, grounded, and trustworthy, you inspire the same in him. But if he senses cracks, if he notices that you act one way when you're with him and another when you're not, it can plant seeds of doubt that are hard to erase. The beauty of passing this unspoken test is that it builds a kind of bond that's very difficult to break. He feels safe not just in the relationship, but in being himself within it. He knows that you're not looking for a reason to step outside of the connection when things get tough or tempting. And that safety allows him to invest more deeply because he knows he's not building on shaky ground. It's also worth noting that loyalty is not about losing yourself or never interacting with the outside world. It's about how you navigate those interactions. You can be warm, social, and confident and still be loyal. In fact, it's often more powerful when a man sees that you're fully capable of engaging with the world and still choose to protect what you have with him. That kind of loyalty feels intentional, not forced. So when he's not there, when you're making choices without his eyes on you, those moments count more than you think. They tell him everything about whether he can trust you with his heart, his time, and his future. And when he realizes you can be trusted without question, that's when you stop being just someone he's interested in. You become someone he sees as irreplaceable.